second day, that Gimel Amud Aleph, the very top of the page. So we had a Mishnah, which can be interpreted in two ways. And the first interpretation we had of the Mishnah was the Shutrin Shirotsu. The Shutrin agreed. What did they agree upon? They agreed upon Lasas and Mechitza to build a wall, because technically the fact that you're invading my privacy and you can see what's going on in my courtyard is not grounds to force me to build a wall. Because hezek ria, the damage that you cause by seeing into my chotzer loish hezek, that's not considered a hezek. I mean, we do agree in principle that sometimes it is. If you're peering into my house, or if we had a wall and we got accustomed to doing private things and then the wall collapsed, okay, that's different. But in ordinary circumstances, I cannot compel you to build a wall at all, nor can you compel me. You want a wall, build it on your side. That's the first view. The second view is going to be Lish Nachrin, is another interpretation that, in fact, we do believe in the principle of Hezekriya, and therefore we read the Mishnah differently. So why do we need the agreement at all? It says the word Lish Nachrin. Another way of learning is Amri Le. They said Svarua. We thought my mechitza plukta. You know what mechitza means? Mechitza means we agreed on a division. But once we agree to divide the courtyard, then Banyan as a kaisel, I can compel you to build a wall. We define the word. The Gimel Amud Aleph, 2 lines on the top. So now we're learning the second interpretation of the Mishnah. Now, when it says in the Mishnah, we agree for mechitza, it means that we agree to divide the land. But once, kivan derotza, once we actually, first of all, how do I know the word mechitza means divide? It says by ti machatasa eda. When after the war of Midian, when they split the booty that they brought back, so it says there machatzaz, which means split. Once we agree to divide the courtyard, then we can compel each other to build a wall. Alma, if you follow this way of learning, that means we believe hezek. Says, how do you know? Maybe the other opinion is right, which is Ema my mechitza good, and maybe mechitza means we agreed to build a wall because hezek loish mehezek. And how do I know the word mechitza means a wall? Could be found in the Mishnah. For instance, mechitzas hakedesh nifta. If you have a wall and a vineyard and a wheat field where they both basically planted up to the wall, and then that wall collapses, we turn to the owner of the vineyard and we hold him responsible because his shoots go out, or because he needs space around his vines for his animal to go ahead and for that to work. Avodas hakerem. We tell him we warn him to put the new fence up. Nifritza, he did, and it broke again. We tell him a second time that you have to put the fence up. And no matter how many times, he's not liable if anything happens. But this Yai Shemena, the moment he abandons hope, what's the point? The wall will keep on collapsing. Like Gidr, he didn't put up a wall. How does a Kiddush? Then it turns into Klayim B'chai B'chnus, and he's the mazik, and he is the one who's responsible. And even though we have a whole argument later on the second parak, we already mentioned it in Bava Basra about whether it's the onus is on the mazik, the one who was making the crime to clear up, to remove it, or is it on the nizik, on the one who's being affected? But over here, everyone agrees that it's on the mazik because gida delay. It's direct cause. And those who don't think so, they learn pshat is the reason why the Baal Kerem has to be the one to make this wall is because he needs the 4 amas of space around his kerem. But the only reason why they agreed, but maybe that's pshat in the Mishnah. The only reason because they agreed to build a wall. Otherwise, you don't build alma, but maybe that's maybe is not shmehezik. So it's a repeat of the Gemara we had yesterday, but from a different vantage point. So then why does it say Bainyan and Sakais? It says they agreed to make a mechitza, which you're telling me means a wall. So why does it say Bainyan and Sakais? They build the wall. Why repeat itself? That Bainyan should have said they built it. So Gemara goes back and counters. You want to say made a division? Why do you need to agree? First of all, the wording. You don't say let's go make a division. You say let's go divide. So should have said So we answer, but previously we didn't come up with an answer. But this lashon says, I'll tell you what, that's how people speak. That's people speak. How many inches people say, let's go ahead and make a division. That's how people speak. Even though it's incorrect grammar, but that's the vernacular out there. Yeah.
Is this discussion about our understanding of mechitza today, like in shul?
No.
Completely no.
This has to do with privacy.
Yeah. Okay. So whether it's a wall or a division, so
exactly. Wall of privacy, and it's according to some, it's an issa because you're invading my privacy, affecting my body. Others say it's a monetary damage because I cannot make full use of my courtyard. I spent so much money. Says the Gemara. So let me ask a question. So when do we need to agree? Why do we need to agree to divide the field? And why talk about such a small courtyard? Why talk about such a small courtyard that we both have to agree? Talk about a normal case. When shutfin divide a property, a shutfin can always divide. You can't force me to stay at many shutf. And the din is you got to build a wall. Why talk about a case where the entire chutzah courtyard is less than 8 amas wide, so we both have to agree? What's the point? If they didn't agree, because our Mishnah is focusing on a courtyard that is so small, well, who did that? So therefore, the only time that we can force each other to, we can't force each other to divide. It has to be Ratzah. So this is how you read. You have a courtyard that is so small that's not big enough for each person on their own unless we both agree with it. And once we agreed, then I can compel you. But anyway, my commercial. So what are you trying to tell me? That what? That even though it's not really divisible, but if we agree we can divide. Is that the purpose of our Mishnah? That if there's a courtyard that's too small, but if we decided to divide, we can. If that's the whole entire chiddush, it's a Mishnah later on. Tanina, didn't we learn it later on? Actually, it says Tanina, but it means future. A Masai. When do we say this? That were these laws, the minimum size of a chutzah, the minimum size of a garden, the minimum size of a field. But we both partners agree to divide. Then I feel there's no minimum then. We can divide whatever we want. So what do you need a Mishnah for? So about Ima Hasam, very simply. You know why I need a Mishnah? Because we would have thought that okay, if you need to procure my agreement to divide the courtyard, maybe I can then say, why should I have to build a wall? I agree to divide the courtyard, but that never anticipate to build a wall. There's not enough space in the courtyard to put a wall there as well. The entire courtyard is so small. So I would have thought that the laws of building a wall don't apply yet. I would have thought you could just put a picket fence there, and that's sufficient. So that's what it says. Ima Hassam, if you only know the further in the Mishnah later on, if you're not following, I would have thought, I feel the Pachim Bekan, but Misipis Ba'alma. Even if it's less than 4, maybe on Misipis. Kamashalon, Hachad Kaisel. Our Mishnah's main purpose is to teach you, and once you divide, we clear that out of the way. We go back to the laws of a wall because it has a kriya. So once he told me the din over here, I learned 2 din from it: the laws of a wall, and also the laws that even though it's indivisible, but if we agree, we can divide it. So what do I need the Mishnah later on? The Mishnah later on, you need for regarding a division, but otherwise we would have thought you cannot divide. And when would that be? Sefer Itzrachle. We need it for the very end of that Mishnah. It says there, Kisvei HaKadosh, when it comes to the holy books, holy scriptures, when it comes to a Sefer, in one of the Chavdal Sfarim should be complete, as we'll learn later on. And let's say a Sefer Torah, but let's divide. You take Shemais and I'll take whatever. That you cannot do. Or the same thing with the Vim Ksubim. It's not covered for a Sefer once it's bound together to divide it into 2.
But you said before that we're talking about whether it's damages or loss or something lost.
Yeah, so that's true. So we're saying our Mishnah has 2 functions. One, to teach you the laws of a wall, and the size and everything else. Another teacher is that it's something which is indivisible, but if we agree, we can divide. So he asked the question, why then do we need to teach me about the divisible? Well, then that Mishnah later on. There's a whole time Mishnah focus on that particular law. So we say because something it's necessary for the din of a wall. We would have thought that if it's indivisible, you need to get my agreement, then maybe you cannot force me to build a wall. That is in that case, because I agreed, but I never anticipated to have to build a wall. So the chiddush of the Mishnah is that if even though you had to procure my agreement to divide this particular courtyard, but once we agreed, all the laws kick in. So you want to find, but now that we know that, what do I have to repeat the Mishnah later about that we can agree to divide? So we answer, we do need it for like as far as we can. Okay. Okay, let's go. Okay,
Mishnah Achrina.
Okay, Mishnah Achrina. Actually, the next thing. Okay, we'll do it quickly. If they agree, mahave lahadabek. Okay, let's say agreed. Now that you tell me I got to build a wall, why can't I just walk away? If it bothers me, why can't I just change my mind? Even though Rabbi say Azov, that you're not allowed to just walk away. That's if you made a kinyan, then there's a thing called Mishaparo. At least you paid money for it, even though you didn't make a kinyan, you paid money. It's called Mishaparo. Whoever punished Noach and the fellow punish you. But over here, nothing happened. I committed to divide. I walk away. So the Gemara we made a kinyan. It's really a repetition of the previous Gemara. Let's get the parentheses. Okay, then we go right back to the previous Gemara. So what do you tell me? That was not big enough for dividing. If it's not large enough to divide, the chutzner is kirotzu my have. So what if we agree? Now, if you're telling me that it could be that I'm not happy that I have to build a wall, so let's change our mind. What's binding me? We made a key. Okay, we made a transaction. But if you make a transaction, there has to be something tangible that the transaction is associated with. If we say, you know what? Okay, we're going to divide the chutzner. There's nothing here for the kinyan to coincide with. What's the kinyan chalan? There's nothing here. If we agree to, let's say, build a wall, there's money that we're committing ourselves. So the kinyan is on this money, or debt on my body, on myself, on a debt that I'm going to commit to $100. But if we make, we'll make a division. What's the kinyan value of the kinyan? It's just words. The it's a kinyan for words. When answer is be spelled out, you'll take the east side, I'll take the west side. So therefore, now we have a courtyard, and the finishes and the kinyan can be chal on the sides. So there's something for it to be chal on. And Avashi answers, talking about that each one went ahead and then followed that, made a chazaka. He dug a little bit, and karka, one of the methods of acquiring karka is through chazaka, and therefore we cannot change our mind. Now everybody wants to know what Avashi actually is adding over here. We all know what Kiddy about. What's he trying to say? So some Rishonim say Avashi wasn't aware of what Rabbi Yechon said, so he said his thing, and then we decided to put both things in Gemara. Others say no, Avashi is making a big finish here. Normally, when we make a kinyan and I sell your property, you give me any money, and you're going to go ahead and make a chazaka, you're going to fix the fence, you're going to dig a hole. I have to say to you, leich chazek the kni. Go ahead and make a chazaka, and that way you'll be kind. I have to hand it over. The chiddush here is I don't have to say leich chazek the kni because we already are owners of this land. All we're doing is we're sorting out so which part is mine or which part is yours. Unless the chazaka is not. That's the chiddush. That's chazek. Others say the chiddush here is they're not even making, he's not digging, not like Rashi he dug a hole, just walking. He said, Shaholach zebetech shloi. That's all he did. There's no such kinyan as walking on the land. But over here, in this case, because we're already partners and we agreed to divide, just walking, merely walking on my side of the courtyard makes it mine. A fourth answer is that the chiddush of Rashi is usually each one has to make a kinyan. The chiddush here is only one person went ahead and either one. This means either one, not and. Either one went in and made a chazaka, the other one to one. Okay, our mission says the minute you to build a certain kind of wall, let's say big stones, then that's what you have to do. Cut stone, that's what you have to do. Gavil, what's Gavil? The more next one, what each one is. Gavil, the Avnei de Meshafi. They're not smoothed out, these big stones. Gozis, that's Avnei de Meshafi. That's stones that have been smoothed out. You see, when it says in Pasuk, Kol Eila Avonim Yukodes, all of these expensive, precious stones, Kemidas Gozis, like the measure of the gozis. So the gozis, the kind of stone that's polished. That's smooth out. What's kvisin? Kvisin is archi. Kvisin are half bricks. Levain is the whole bricks. Omelei rabba, and the half bricks, but you put a tefach of cement in between, makes it four. Omelei rabba, brei the rabba. So rabba, the son of rabba, said to Rabashi, "Memai digvil avnei deloi meshafi." How do you know which what's what? How do you know gvil means stones that are uncut, that have not been cut down, have a high tefach yeseda? And this extra tefach, because it's 6 tvachim versus 5 tvachim, and this extra tefach is l'morisha de kanasa, that some of the stones, they protrude because they haven't been smoothed out. So there's jagged edges and everything else that are protruding on the outside, and that's why you need extra. Dilma, maybe a gvil is just like we have kfisin and levanin. Maybe the same thing is gvil and gozis. Gozis are 5 tvachim, cut stones. Maybe gvil is 5 tvachim stones cut in half, filled with a tefach of cement in between. The gozes who maybe probably gozes, half of a gozes, but high tefach say the bein rule. And why is it 6 tvachim? Because he put cement in between. You know what I mean? Like just what he said about kfisin. Kfisin is actually half bricks with a tefach in between, and levain is the entire whole bricks. The high tefach is say the white fish is like the tefach lebein urban is the part in between. Oh, Malay, he asked back. He asked him back. Let me ask a question. Well, the time according to you, kfisin arshman. How do you know kfisin means that? How do you know it means that? Ela gemara gemila. That's what we're told. So you will not me avla mishafi gemara gemila. Just like we know what kfisin are, we know what gemila is. The same story we had in Beis Hillel about the guy said, "I know this is Aleph, this is Beis, this is the other way around, this is Beis, this is Aleph." Hillel said to him, "Yeah, I know this is it." So Hillel said, "I know this is it." We believe in tradition. Same thing over here. Ikidami, there's another version which is the exact same thing, but from the other end. Allah Racha b'nei Rav Avia, Rav Ashi. First one different Amar. There's Rav Achi, Rav Avia, the son of Rav Ashi. He said to Rav Ashi, "Memai the high kfis and Achi." The question is the other way around. I know kfis means half bricks with the cement. But I have to tell you, between dealing with my kfis and Avia Lemishafin, maybe kfis are not Avia, but the bricks that have not been smoothed out, they're not even. That's why they're sticking out. But I have to say the because they have not been cut down to make them smooth and pieces sticking out everywhere. That's why it's actually tough. Because I mean, like we say, Gvil is Adla Mishafin. It's like Gvil is stones that have not been cut down properly. And God is Adla Mishafin. But high tefach, you say, Lamosh Nekanis, and every tefach is for the corners. Amalei, he said back to him, exactly the same response, but the other way around. Well, the time of you tell me, but you accept the Gvil is the Abid Mishafin. That's basically the question. How do you know? Minola. Tradition. This was passed down. I'm going to buy it. Shema Mino, what do we know from here? Kol Bein Urban. We know from here is whenever you have half bricks and you want to fill it to keep it more going, is tefach, is a full tefach. Says the Gemara, that's if you use cement. I will believe if you have a mixture of cement and pebbles, by its face. Not as strong, it's not so the bond isn't that strong. You need more of a gap, more than a tefach to be able to form a complete brick out of that. I'm going to say it all the way around. Now, when do we say that you need a full tefach if it's a mixture of pebbles and cement? Pure cement. You don't even need that much. The Gemara, so what are you telling me? Because the Mishnah says 4 amos tall, 5 fucking wide. The Gazi hold down if it's 4 amos tall, if it's 5 fucking wide, now the Gemara is doing engineering. If the wall is 5 fucking wide in a ratio of 4 amos high, then the wall will be strong and enduring. And but if it's, let's say, not 5 fucking wide, it will fall apart. So that's the question. So it's all a proportion. So if 4 amos high needs 5 tvachim, 8 amos high would need 10 tvachim, and 16 amos high would need 20 tvachim. So that's the question. I'm attracting the dividing wall in the Beis Hamikdash between the Kodesh HaKadoshim and the Kodesh. It's called traxin, which means basically a door. But Taisa says traxin is abbreviation. Trak is a door, and sin it means Har Sinai, because it was a door that enclosed the luchas, which is from Har Sinai. Taisa gives another shot. Traxin means inside and outside. That we weren't sure. The law says that traxin, that space, that gap, is considered part of Kodesh Kedoshim, or is that considered part of the Kodesh? So therefore, in the second Mishnah, you had 2 curtains. Yes. One is facing the Kodesh Kedoshim, and the one facing the Kodesh, and there's a gap in between because they didn't know how to deal with it. So that's trak inside, sin outside. So I'm attraction to the way it was. Lama was 30 amos tall. We'll have in the first base measure the wall. We'll have it put it was only 6 tvachim wide. Doesn't make sense. 6 tvachim wide with a 30 amos wall. Where's the proportion here? Become and expanding for 410 years. Says Gemara, this rate doesn't work standard proportional thing. 4 amos need 5 tvachim. If the 6 tvachim, it can carry wall up to 30 amos. So Gemara, if right now Gemara is not up to, can carry wall even 30 amos. So Gemara no mikdash sheni. The second base of mikdash, my time I'm a traxin. Why didn't they make it? Why didn't they have curtains? Build a proper wall, even though it was a taller wall. But you're saying it's once the 6 tvachim goes as high as you want. Says Gemara, no kikoi betlosim koi. Engineering, you tell you that six tvachim can carry only up to 30 amos. But fei loikoi. More than that, sorry, 5 tvachim goes you carry 30 amos. But if it's taller than 30 amos, the second base of English Rashi is 100, but it's actually 40 amos. The wall part, because the upstairs was much harder. Loikoi. When all have a going to emerge not digressing. How do you know say base of English was the taller wall than the first base of English? The chsiv, it says the pasuk, Godul yeh covered by his achel minadishim. Greater will be the second base of English over the first. And what does it mean greater? Rabbi Shmuel, not Rabbi Shmuel. Chadam binyan in the height. So the second base of English is actually taller. The Chadam says Bishanim in how long it stood, 420 versus 410. The Yisrael and they're both right. There's a truth of the Rashba. I can't remember where it is, where somebody said to him, it says clearly here, why are you going around saying Mashiach is coming to build the third base of Mikdash? It says it clearly, Godel Yeh covered by Achron, Yeshiv Edition. Achron is the second base of Mikdash. And it's called Achron, the last. So the Gemara says, so where do you get the third base of Mikdash from? The Rambam is like this. It says in Parashas Shmois, David said to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Do this miracle to prove that I'm the one to send you to the Eden. And then do this miracle, the snake, put your hand in the pocket, and then then do this second minion." Then he says, "V'hoya im lo yaminu l'koil ha'oisa achrin," and do the third simon, which is the water turns to blood. So we say, "V'hoya im lo yaminu l'oisa achrin." They don't believe. So the possible means like this. I wrote Achron here for the second sign you're showing to Eden, but I'm giving you a third sign. I want the Hoyel. This should be an ois. This should be a sign for. This should be a sign for the Achron that even though I said the word Achron, there can be one afterwards as well by the base of English. Take a minute further. So I want to make 30 amot tall wall. A wall is much better than the curtains. And the rest, the height, use a curtain. When we say 30 amos, it's not just 30 amos. How could it be that 4 amos is 5 tvachim and 6 tvachim 30 amos? It's the fact that there's a ceiling and plaster on top of the wall that's holding it in place and makes it stable. In fact, now that we answer this answer, we don't even need this anymore. Okay. Sorry, let's continue. Sorry. Agav tikra maziv avikoi. Below New Zealand avikoi. But second base in English, the ceiling is much higher.
Yeah.
And therefore it couldn't hold the wall. I want to make part wall and part curtain. I'm going to buy it. Immediately we have a rule. Equal opinion, equal berachos. So no, okay, you can't have a 30 ammo wall. Maybe a 10 ammo wall can work a 5 fach, and the rest do a curtain. We have a rule. All wall or all curtain. And why do you have such a rule? Because if you learn from the first base of Midrash, it was all wall. Or if you learn from the Mishkan, it has to be all curtain. You can't chop and divide and say, okay, we'll mix. We'll have part wall and part curtain. We have a question. This wall that we're talking about, when we give these measurements, that include the plaster that they put the coating on the outside, that's before you have the plaster on it. It makes more sense. That includes the plaster. Without the plaster, then why talk only about the stones? You got to give us the full measurement. It might be 5.2. So the Gemara, includes the plastic. Maybe the Mishnah doesn't go to fractions. I know. Maybe it's the wall without the plaster. Because it's some fractions, Mishnahs like to round off things to the whole numbers. Like Tony doesn't mention about the plaster. So the Gemara of Tony, it says you don't fractions, but we said by the kfisin it's 1.5. Is 1.5 and 1.5 amos. Each side. So we do go to fractions. But Tony doesn't it say? In fact, when you break down by Gaz, it says you give 2.5 tvachim and you give 2.5 tvachim, and by Levanim it says you give 1.5 tvachim. So we talk about fractions. When I said Hashem chazat for halves. Since it's 2 halves, you think you give 1.5 and you give 1.5, that becomes 3. You give 2.5, you give 2.5, that becomes a whole number. That's like whole numbers. But we don't like fractions. 5.2. So we're still remaining the question. I'll prove it to you. We learned in Gemara Eruvin that one of the ways of, let's say, you have a 3-wall street, and you want to carry this, you have to either put a lechi, a post on the side, or you put a koid, a beam across. This beam, how big does it have to be? Large enough to have on it a half of a brick. What's a riach? Half of 3 tvachim. There's no 2 halves, there's just one. And we're talking about a fraction, and yet forget about the fraction. We're talking about the ariach, and we're saying it's 1.5 tvachim. So what do we see from here? We're not building this. We're just talking about the brick itself. So clearly, the size of a brick is 3 tvachim without the plaster. So this answers the question. When our Mishnah says 3 tvachim, we're talking about without the plaster, because there's no need to have plaster when we're talking about a brick sitting on top of the beam. Maybe that's talking about a large brick, but a smaller brick can be 2.5 tvachim with a plaster of 3 tvachim. So the Gemara, they can now prove it. In fact, Tony says it says that a brick is a brick of 3 tvachim. If the standard brick, the minimum brick is 3 tvachim, then just tell us a brick. And because you didn't give us a measurement, but rather we know you go for the minimum. So why do you say a brick of 3 tvachim? The proves that there are smaller ones as well. Shmamla, good proof. Now that you mentioned to me about a Beis Hamikdash and about the walls of Beis Hamikdash, we're going to lead into a question which we're not going to finish today about how Herdus was able, about demolishing Beis Hamikdash and so on. So first we'll talk about a shul, which is a Mikdash Ma'at. A shul is a miniature Beis Hamikdash. Amar Rav Chizda said, listed in you shouldn't demolish one shul until you build another shul. And why not? Ikadami, one of you says, we're scared of negligence. That you're going to demolish the shul and then you never get bothered to it, you never get around to build another one. We're going to daven in the meantime. My benai, what's in these two opinions? Ika benayu, the Ika, either Beiknish Dachlita, which is one version. If you have another shul in town, you can't tell me there's nowhere to daven. How would I daven? So that I can demolish the shul and build a new one. But if the problem is, we're scared that you're going to lose out the shul, you're missing out the shul. Or another version is, there's a place to daven. Even if you have no other shul in town, but somebody offers his house that everybody can daven in their house, good enough. But if it's pshia, then we're going to lose the shul. Yeah. Says the Gemara, Mereimar u'marzut. Now it seems this Gemara here, Mereimar u'marzut, are only going to side with one opinion. And that is, it says, Sosri uboni bekaita, that there's two kinds of shuls, a winter shul and a summer shul. Obviously, these weren't permanent edifices. Yeah. The winter shul has very few windows, a lot of wall. Yeah. The summer shul, you want it to be eerie, so you have a lot of windows. So they would demolish the winter shul, the summer shul basis in the winter, and the bona basis and demolish and build the winter shul in the summer. Now, what does that mean? So there's a few ways. Big Bachai show how to learn. So what are they saying? Why demolish a shul? Must be because they had somewhere else to daven. Because if the reason is pshiyusa, why were they allowed to demolish the shul before they built up something else to daven right now? So Tosha says no. Lav Davka, they took sides, because you can learn different. We can learn that they had two different shuls. And when we said before that if there's a place to daven, pshiyusa still you should demolish the shul. Let's talk about a place to daven. But if you have another shul to daven, we don't care if you demolish the shul. What about if you demolish it, you don't build it again? We have a shul. Others say no. That even if you have another shul, demolishing a shul is forbidden. The Torah says you should destroy Avodah Zarah and you shouldn't do the same to Hashem. So you now demolish a shul before you rebuild it first. In fact, they're showing a link from here that if you want to extend the shul, before you demolish the part of the shul, first build the extension and then demolish the inside of the shul. You always follow that. Or others say, as we'll see in the soon, that if you saw a crack in the wall, a fissure in the wall, then you're allowed to demolish because you have to save the shul. Rashi, the mention question, you collected money already. I still worried about pshia, not my. Can you go ahead and demolish shul? Because the money is there already. And this is a proof that most Rishonim hold that the halacha is because of pshia. That's what we're worried about, negligent. So even if you have another shul to daven in, or at least if you have another place to daven in, you cannot demolish shul until you first build it. According to others, even if you have another shul in town, you can't demolish. It's not good enough. Maybe it'll be Pidyon Shvuim. Now, there's a big machlekes. I mean, most people hold Pidyon Shvuim is the greatest mitzvah. It's only a mitzvah like Pidyon Shvuim. But there's a taste in the Avodah Zarah where he says that a shul was Rabbi Choy Goin, that Pidyon Shvuim actually is a small mitzvah, which is pretty interesting because it's unique. And surely any other mitzvah. So in other words, it's not guaranteed. It's still a pshir. The Yavle give away all the money. You'll have nothing. So, okay, what about the next step? All the provisions, all the materials are already all sitting there ready. You already took the money and you change into these materials. It's still not good enough. No guarantee. You will sell what you have and give it. If you build a shul as well, Tosha says it means not that you use the shul daven. It's not even a question. Well, you don't sell the shul for something else. It means the shul, but you didn't daven it yet. So maybe you still sell it. So what's the guarantee? You shouldn't be able to. A shul doesn't have to be treated more than your own house. You wouldn't sell your house, even though it's a mitzvah tzedakah, everything else. But no one tells that you have to sell your house to give tzedakah. When did we say all these rules? But you don't see any cracks in the wall. You see cracks in the wall. You can demolish the shul and build it because you got to rescue the shul. You're doing it for the benefit of the shul itself. He saw in his town there was a crack in the shul. Sasa, he demolished it. And then he brought his bed in there. So now the roof was leaking in, and by Afghan he didn't remove it at the masculine until they fixed all the water and everything else, the leaks. And he slept there to remind him that how painful it is that the shul is not yet ready, and therefore he can put pressure on the workers to go faster. So all they're trying to talk about, we hang Mar Megillah, you can't sleep in a shul. What's he doing sleeping in a shul? So it's exactly. Tay says next to it. However, the Raviyah says no. You're not sleeping in a shul for your own benefit, but here you're doing it for the benefit of the shul. Then you're allowed to do it. Then there's another argument. Rashi holds in Megillah that in the shuls in Babel al Tanai, they made a condition. The condition was that you're allowed to eat to sleep there, even though the Muslims talk about sleeping there. So therefore, this is a shul in Babel. Other Rishonim disagree. They say Tanai means that if the shul, I guess, falls apart, then you're allowed to turn the area into something else. But that the shul, while it's upstanding, no different than a Yisrael. You have to treat it like a shul. You're not allowed to eat it, sleep it, and all that. Says the Gemara, you tell me now to demolish the shul. So I want to know how Baba ben Buta advised Hurdas to destroy the Beis Hamikdash. So we'll just do the story till the bottom, and it'll lead to the question tomorrow. Well, Baba ben Buta, hey, Hurdas, how can he advise Hurdas to destroy the Beis Hamikdash? Said, the least he should have built another Beis Hamikdash before he destroyed this one. What's the story? So Gemara answered before I get Abdul Sultan. The Beis Hamikdash is falling apart. So that's why he had no choice. We said before, you're allowed to break it down. Yeah. There's a whole question, what happened if you have nowhere to daven? We said before that and the Beis Hamikdash, what about the Karbonis? If there's no, you're allowed to bring Karbonis even though there's no Beis Hamikdash, but you couldn't do anything there because they were building. So some say Taka they didn't bring Kabbanis during that interim period when they were building Beis Hamikdash. The whole reason is you might change your mind. But if a monarch gets in and says we're going to build the Lahadbe monarch, it's embarrassing for a monarch ever to change his mind. They make something happen, it happens. If a king says we'll move the mountain, we'll move the mountain. We don't change your mind. Hurdas, after the Beit Chashmonaim, Hurdas was a slave in the family of Chashmonaim. And he rebelled against his masters. He saw one of the girls of the Chashmonaim and he fell in love with her. One day, Shammai heard how Gabra, this Hurdas heard, they didn't want to refer to my name anymore. Bas Kola, a voice from heaven, any slave who rebels against his master, now Matzliach will succeed. Come, Katlina Lekula Marvasa. He killed all of his employers, all of his masters. The Shaila he left this young girl. When this girl really was going on, and he wanted to marry her. So she went and climbed up on top of the roof. The Ramad Kala, she raised her voice loud, and she said, "Call man, anybody. The Osi that comes along, that I am a member of the family of the Chashmonaim, Avdahu. You should know that he's a slave. Because I'm the last member. I'm the last member of the family. And she threw herself down. And here we did a whole discussion if you're allowed to do that for the some for the 3 Avedas or whatever it is, for the sake of a mitzvah to avoid the shame. Tomna Sheva Shnin Bedufsha. What he did then was he preserved it for 7 years in honey. He actually had relations. He didn't have relations, but he put her out in the balcony every day. People thought from a distance that she was alive. And the ones who say that he had relations, he did it for the Yitzhahara. The piece of the Yitzhahara. Why did he preserve her? So nobody can dispute his right to the royal family. And once after 7 years he's been accepted, that's it. Omar, he says, Man Dodesh it's not enough to be Jewish, to be a king, but it has to be from the prized people that the mother has to be Yid, the father to be Rabbanan. Come Katlina Lukula Rabbanan. He went out and he unfortunately killed all the Rabbanan. It wasn't all the Rabbanan, because we know the Hillel lived at that time, because this entire story happened 103 years before the Beis Hamikdash, and Hillel came 100 years before the Beis Hamikdash. So Hillel lived at that time, Bebseda within the same. He killed some of the Rabbanan, those that he felt would challenge him. And he left behind Shavkil Bava Buta Mishka, but he left behind Bava Buta to seek advice from. The only question is, if there were other Tanaim around, why do you have to leave by Bava Buta? And the other ones he didn't damage. Why did you go ahead? Hadilek Talila, you went ahead and put a crown made out of porcupine quills. And Daila Nakrinila and Daila and Nakrinila, porcupine crown and all these quills. Nakrinila and he gouged his eyes out, to be blind. One day, also as I said before, I'm a chazim man. I have the bish my covered. You see this terrible person who he feigned as if he was just another person. What Hurdas did, I'm like my abbot. What should I do? I'm like now, tie curse him. Curse him. I'm like see, even in your own mind, melech hatakal. You don't curse kings. I'm like high lad melech. You think he's a king? I'm like okay, he's not a king. He's a wealthy person. He's affluent. Even in the inner recess of your house, don't curse wealthy people. And if he's not wealthy, just a leader. So he said back to him, but he has to behave like a proper yid. This guy is terrible. He's not a good yid. He killed all his rabbanon. I'm scared of him. I'm not going to say anything. Like there's nobody here besides me. The lame will say anything to him. I and you are sitting here. Said back to him. It says, Shlomo said, see, it says, the birds in heaven will carry the voice of Balkan the wings. The birds will go and tell reveal. I know who it's me. I knew the rabbis were so particular not to offend somebody. I would not have killed him out. We'll pause over here. We'll continue tomorrow. 7 o'clock.